Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining. My name is Jakov, and today I'm going to give you a brief overview of a new firmware platform that we have built at Sartura called Replica.one. So I will begin with a short introduction into who we are and what is it that we do. So basically, Sartura has been in the CP space for over 10 years now, and we are embedded software experts providing professional support and expertise in low-level firmware and software engineering. So more recently, however, we have been involved in the creation of an ISP. And with this project, what is very interesting is that we had a core unifying vision, which is to have a single unifying kind of like software stack on all of the ISP infrastructure. So what we mean by this is that we wanted to have not only CPEs covered, but also to expand to switches, network servers, and even some other network devices, right? And as you may know, Sartura has been with the prpl community for a very long time, since its inception. And one of our goals here is to present this new firmware approach and give you kind of a preview into how we can expand from the CPE space. Okay, so basically, when we think about system software, we're talking about operating systems, right? But for embedded devices, we use the interchangeable term firmware. And firmware or operating systems are built using build systems. And I will give you a brief introduction into what build systems are. So basically, the first step is to prepare some source code, and this source code, be it proprietary or open source, is then configured based on the requirements. This configuration can be done to enable or disable any particular feature. And afterwards, this configuration results in a built firmware image, which is then transferred over to the actual device. And this is actually the process that we wanted to improve upon. And so these firmware build systems generally have or satisfy obvious requirements. So in the first sense, we want to use open source software. Open source because we believe that the community engagement and the community effort greatly reduces downstream maintenance effort. So basically, in our experience, when we do support for various platforms, we encourage the use of mainline Linux because it allows us to have easier support for all of these services. And in the second sense, we want to have flexible configuration, flexibility to add any third-party services on this platform. And the third one is to use active projects. This is crucially important because of the continuous development, and any new technologies can be readily used. So generally, firmware build systems do satisfy some of these requirements, but in some sense, they can be improved. And the first one which we want to focus on is the fact that most of these systems have there's a lot of effort needed to actually utilize them, especially when it comes to support in the, for example, mainline Linux. This is something that we strive to do when we do board support. We engage with the upstream community. We engage them by offering them changes that we have made, and we strive to upstream everything there. Obviously, the second point is to provide alternatives for software packages. This is also important if there are any competing technological solutions on the market. So to summarize in a three-point way, so first one, we want to unify support for all of these devices. Second one, all of these devices should have readily available support in the upstream communities. And in the third sense, we want to have a high degree of flexibility to integrate third-party services. So this is why we set out to create Replica.one. And as you can imagine, Replica.one is an open source firmware build system, right? And this allows us to generate all kinds of firmware for various kinds of network devices. So this is a unified platform for CPEs, for network switches, and so on. So basically, firmware built using Replica.one is already used in production in the ISP space. On the slide, you can see various examples of these kinds of devices. So basically, we have access points, we have network switches, network gateways, and network services. But Replica.one also allows us to build highly customized, virtualized applications, right? And this brings me to the main point. So basically, with Replica.one, we consider it as a platform for a rich ecosystem of services, because in today's world, given the enormous requirements for connectivity, all of these services require these kinds of support. And firstly, this goes back to what I was saying with upstream maintenance requirements. So basically, we really want to support any kind of open source here. As you may know, Sartura has been involved in the prpl community and has been developing kind of like it started with LXC support in OpenWRT, and this has allowed 8 years ago, and this has allowed a rich ecosystem of containerized applications. And this is why we think with Replica.one, we have taken the challenges of the CP space, and we are striving to have them repeated over in the switching space as well. So to summarize and to take some notes, basically with Replica.one, we want to have no maintenance. We want to allow the users to build highly customized and flexible images, and we consider it to be a platform on which we can build a rich ecosystem of services, right? Okay, that is all. I invite you to our demo desk if you are interested to learn more, and thank you for the attention.